design is basically a process of refinement, right? So you start with really big decisions, big gestures, big things to consider. And then after you make those decisions, the decisions become smaller and smaller, and the changes or modifications to the design become smaller as you progress throughout the process. And that's pretty straightforward, but it's important to know. Pre-design doesn't always exist for every project as an official step, but it pretty much is always there. So first, I think we have to understand that architecture and interior design, and we're kind of lumping architecture and interior design together because from our perspective, there's no legitimate separation. But both of those are the practice of creating solutions and creating solutions through building stuff, whether it be construction or furnishing. And in essence, this is a way of problem solving. And so you were responding to a set of circumstances, right? A set of conditions to achieve a certain set of goals. So there's circumstances, there's information, and then there's goals. And so the pre-design phase is basically all about understanding, researching, and comprehending what those different factors are, right? So for the information, as I was calling it, the circumstances, the givens, it would be the basic stuff like, what is your project budget? That's a big one. How much money you're willing to spend or do you want to spend or can spend? What is the schedule for this thing? What is the scope? Scope meaning how big the project is, what's involved, right? And scope is tied to another idea of which is program. And program in architecture more or less means like how the building is going to be used, right? So in a home, program would be how many bedrooms, how many bathrooms, how many living spaces, how the kinds of yards and other stuff like that. So those are the kind of the three big ones: budget, schedule, and scope. The other one with that information is the site, which is the property itself. And it's really important for architects and clients to understand the givens of the site, the characteristics of the site, both from an aesthetic and design kind of perspective, but also in terms of what you can legally build, right? There's a zoning code, there's a building code, like what can you build on this property? Those are all the givens, right? The other portion that's studied during the pre-design phase, or should be, is the client goals and the objectives, right? So this is the biggest question is like, why are you doing this project and what do you want to get out of it? And we'll talk more in another recording, I think, about why that's important and how it can be done. But that's pre-design. Pre-design is getting all that information so then therefore you can get to designing. And it's extremely important because without that information, without understanding it and having truthful and honest information and accurate information, you can't really design something meaningful or appropriate. It would be like going to a doctor and the doctor assigning some kind of prescription or performing an operation without actually doing an analysis, right? So pre-design can also be thought of as a kind of analytical phase. The next step, which sometimes exists and sometimes doesn't, is called concept design or conceptual design.